Sup, nerds? It's James.
And Jimmy.
And today we're going to be talking about a movie for Flashback Friday.
Imagine that, a movie for Flashback Friday.
I know, it's such a rare event. It's like finding a unicorn.
This is actually very on par with Finding a Unicorn because it's a period piece that was released in 2000 that shows the 80s for the United States, but really redefined horror, and I would even say comedy.
Very much so. Today we are talking about The American Psycho with probably one of the greatest method actors of all time, Christian Bale.
Very much so. And I learned things along the way, also starring Willem Defoe. And I didn't know this until James told me that they filmed his sequences 3 different ways.
When Willem Dafoe was being shot for his character, the detective, as my father said, there were 3 different takes they used. One take where the detective knew Bale was the killer, one take where the detective didn't know Bale's character was the killer, and one take where the detective genuinely didn't know either way and was on the fence.
And when I rewatched it knowing this, and you see Willem Dafoe being sort of serious actor, presenting Patrick Bateman with facts and information, to like the next time he talks, you see almost the Green Goblin look in his eyes, like you're like, oh dude, he's insane. And it's like, yeah, they did that on purpose, and I did not know that. It was very interesting.
Yes, it is such a well-made film in every part of its conception. And like my father said, it's a comedy. Many people don't see that, but it is inherently a comedy. So many moments are funny, and I feel like a lot of people tend to miss that because they miss the subtext and the meaning of the work. I mean, one of the funniest scenes is when he's in the car with his fiancée, and he's just like staring out the window, inner monologuing, and she's giving him a whole spiel, and he's not even remotely paying attention. And
he does that a lot with
God.
a lot of people, but a lot of the times it's with her where she's babbling on about the wedding and all that, and you're like, I don't care.
And
I don't care.
The face he makes, it's just so stupidly funny sometimes that you can't. Yeah, it's horrifying, but it's kind of funny. You have the scene where the ATM is like, "Feed me the cat." It's like, you gotta laugh at that, and then he's running around being a weirdo, and it's like, it's as dark as it is, it's a comedy.
One of my favorites with that ending scenario is when he goes through the revolving door and we see the janitor come out of the elevator, and he comes back through the revolving door, shoots, and then goes back out. It's like, you didn't need to do that.
No.
But it's hilarious.
And that's where this plays into what the movie is really about. Yes, it's a period piece of 80s corporate America, but it's also deeply about toxic masculinity. And it's so well crafted because for a good amount of the movie, we are fed information through Patrick Bateman, the main protagonist. But as the movie goes on, you start to realize some things aren't as they seem, and none of it may actually have ever happened in the first place, as evidenced by the ATM machine saying, "Please feed me the cat."
And there's a lot of that going on where in the beginning, Patrick Bateman is seen as a normal dude, but he's also mistaken as somebody else. So it's never really known, is this really Patrick Bateman? And even at some points, he tries to portray himself as Paul Allen, so he's got an alibi, but people mistake him as Paul Allen as well. Paul Allen is theoretically the Jared Leto character.
But we don't know.
But we do if you watch it, and I've seen this several times, so I was keeping my eyes out for more information and more evidence. There is a downslide to Christian Bale's character where there's a very likely possibility that his routine in the beginning that he describes with the shower and the moisturizer and the face peel and all that, that is him, and that's what he does every day. And then he does go and do the corporate thing. His imagination is all the horrific shit that he does, from killing a homeless dude to picking up prostitutes and call girls to having them interact sexually with him as he's flexing in the mirror, obviously only interested in himself, to one of my favorites is chasing the one blonde prostitute down the hallway as he's buck naked, except for sneakers, with a chainsaw, and is watching her go down the stairs And then drops a chainsaw and it hits her, and it's like, that, not possible.
No. And that really brings to light the idea of his corporate life is so boring. He has to imagine these horrific, disgusting events to make it seem like it's worth a damn. And there's a point at which that becomes his new reality. And he's so convinced that's what he has become. And it really comes to a head when he calls his lawyer, basically losing his mind, thinking he's killed these people and wants to not deal with the repercussions. And then he talks with his lawyer the next day and he's like, what do you mean?
Oh, his lawyer thought it was hilarious.
Exactly. And it really makes you question what has been real and what hasn't, because that police searchlight when he's in his office, who's to say that was ever a searchlight in the first place? Who's to say there was ever a light in the first place? Not to mention the fact that you can see most of the characters in the film is not real.
And one of the biggest endings with that, with the lawyer, is the lawyer had an alibi with Paul Allen in Europe. And Paul Allen was supposedly the dude Christian Bale killed in the beginning,
while jamming out to Huey Lewis, nonetheless.
So it's like, okay, we watch this with the information that's given to us, thinking that it's real, but then we're presented with evidence that said it's not real. So that's what's great about this film, is we get to make up our own minds on what is real, what is not, what is excessive 80s crazy, and what is just normal for the life there. I mean, it cracks me up that the restaurants, the name dropping, Doria. Can we get into Doria? I got to get reservations at Doria. And it's like, shut the fuck up about Doria.
I love that writing, though, because it really paints it as a place that exists that you could go to. And that's kind of what it was.
And you get judged because the one time when he does meet with Paul Allen, they go to some Mexican restaurant, it's empty. And Paul Allen the whole time is like, there's nobody here. This is awful. Like, this place sucks or whatever. And it's like, that goes along with the business cards when they are literally comparing the business cards. And Patrick Bateman gets pissed. Like, you can see it when he finally gets to see Paul Allen's card. He is fuming that card is so much better than his card in his mind. And as a layperson, I'm looking at it going, what the fuck? They're the same goddamn card.
And fun little fact, on every one of their business cards, something is misspelled. So have fun looking for that when you watch it next.
But then my favorite was Lewis, and it wasn't right at this scene.
Oh my God.
But poor Lewis shows his card, and it's
white with gold
and it's a horrible
text.
Tacky. But Lewis is so proud of it, and Bateman's just like, oh my God, this guy.
Oh yeah, and then Bateman goes to strangle him, and Lewis is like, I love you. And Bateman's like,
Which again, we don't know if that was real, because this
Exactly.
is another commentary of the 80s where being gay was a very bad thing.
And
Get into that discussion is something else, but yeah.
If this is happening in Bateman's mind, it could be seen as toxic masculinity in a man under that mindset, fantasizing about that idea, but immediately rejecting it out of fear. And so there's so many layers that go to this. And the biggest one that really drives home the mystery of it all is when the lawyer mistakes Bateman for someone else.
Yeah.
The lawyer thought the dude who called him wasn't Bateman.
It was Ted or something like that. It was a wholly different character, which was very interesting. But then that got us to thinking, and again, one of our long car rides, is Patrick Bateman's group real? Are those representations of his own beliefs, philosophies, identities, so that, like, Paul Allen seems to be real because other people have interacted with him, but Paul Allen has only interacted with Patrick Bateman and his friends, and then Bateman doesn't interact with anybody else. I'm sorry, his friends don't really interact with anybody else other than Bateman and his friends. So it's like, are they real? Are they just representations? Like, Lewis is a good example. Does Patrick Bateman have leanings towards being gay or thoughts of being gay? And is Lewis the representation of that? Because Patrick Bateman is sleeping with Lewis's fiance, theoretically. Don't know if it's real or what's not real. And it's just like, I don't know.
And
I got no empirical evidence either way.
not to mention the fact that when we meet Paul Allen, he's like the better version of Bateman. Bateman even says it himself without obviously admitting it, but the two are very similar. So it could also be that Paul Allen is the version of Bateman wants to be, which pisses him off that he's not that. So,
And he's not really anybody when you think about it. That sort of gets to another point where, is it just a representation of the 80s, and that Bateman is a nobody, and that's why he gets mistaken for all these other people, because he looks and acts and is just like everybody else, not in just this firm, but in that era.
Exactly. The movie is built on what is defined by reality and what isn't. And honestly, the entire film could be in his own head. All of it could have been just some sick fantasy some Joe Schmo needed to come up with. And it's very, very mind-boggling. And at the same time, it creates an incredibly well-written film.
And kudos to the director, Mary Herron, the way she pulled this off. I've never read the book, but I can't imagine getting this source material and be like, this would be a perfect movie, because no, it wouldn't. And one of James's favorite games, where did the money go?
The soundtrack.
Holy crap, paying for the rights for all of those songs. And I knew this going in because I'd seen that when it was being made. But when you really break it down, and you have a lot of actors before they were famous, Willem Defoe is really the only one that I can think of that was an established name.
Reese Witherspoon, kinda.
She was on the early end. Christian Bale obviously had
very
been
much
in
so.
film forever, but he was on the early end. Justin Theroux, Jared Leto, Chloe Sevigny. All these people are basically early in their career. So yeah, they didn't get the money. It really was the songs.
Yes, so much of this film is just basically it's watching a dude bro do what dude bros do, but a lot more violent. And honestly, that's what makes it the funniest, is that it's not entirely false. So much of this is things you can actually go outside and see for yourself. And also some of it is just stupid funny. Like when he blows the cars up with a single gunshot, he looks at the gun like, huh?
That reminds me, another incident where, so the lawyer gives us a lot of ideas that this did not happen, but another one that is a little more ambiguous is when Bateman goes back to Paul Allen's apartment, where theoretically we had just seen a whole bunch of dead bodies littered throughout the apartment, and he goes back and they're having a showing to sell it, and it's completely clean.
Exactly.
And there's paint in the closets, and we're like, okay, well, they couldn't have cleaned it up that quickly, but the real estate agent is telling him he needs to leave, and it says it in a threatening way that almost like she knows something about him, and we're like, wait a minute, so did this happen? It was very confusing, and they never explained why she felt that way towards him. And so the first idea is that, well, the apartment got cleaned up way too quickly, and there was no cops around, there was nothing going on, so it must not have happened. But the way that she interacted with him, Bateman, Christian Bale, is like, well, something happened.
Which could also lean into, as we know, the movie is narrated by him, told to us through his perspective. She very well could have said, you just need to leave. And his interpretation of the events were an antagonistic representation of what she was saying. So maybe she just asked him to leave in a sincere way, and he took it as, I know what you did, which wasn't anything at all.
Or he could be Paul Allen, and she was selling his apartment, and she was pissed that he was there while she's trying to sell it when he shouldn't be there.
Exactly. There
Who
is
knows?
so much to this movie that you can really take away from it in what is real and what isn't.
So if you've not seen it, American Psycho from 2000, starring Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, Chloe Sevigny, I'm missing somebody. Oh, Jared Leto, Justin Theroux, has a fantastic cast. Reese Witherspoon,
Yes.
of young kids. I forgot the other one. Darn it, Samantha. Is it Samantha? She was in Pump Up the Volume.
Oh,
I love her. She was Lewis's fiance. I'm so sorry, I forgot her name, but she was a phenomenal actress anyway. But highly check it out. And if you really want to go, there is a sequel with Mila Kunis, that I actually enjoy, but it has nothing to do with this as far as the caliber of writing and all that. That is definitely like a cheesy sequel that they made to build on the name American Psycho. But this one, phenomenal. Highly recommend it.
absolutely.
Not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all. And remember, gentlemen, if your lovely partner starts talking to you, just stare off into the distance like,